Man, Shigaraki, you really are a handyman. Shigaraki took the phrase throwing hands a bit too seriously. Shigaraki really decided to have a hands-on approach with this one. Shigaraki Tomura, giving a new meaning to giving a hand every day. Bro live on air gave Maruko the 5-finger deluxe combo. Is that legal? Thank you to our $5 patron, Sin is Lancelot, and a big thank you to our $25 patron, the Mr. Greed. Before we end this review of chapter 346 of My Hero Academia, please do me a favor, leave your own thoughts on the chapter in the comment section down below, leave a like, and subscribe if you haven't already. Also, make sure you hit that little notification bell so you don't miss out on any videos that come to the channel. Also, I do have a Patreon down below where you can support me for as low as $1 a month. Any support would be appreciated. Now, let's get into it. What's up, guys? I got a pencil here, and here we are to chapter 346 of My Hero Academia, which is known as Super Hyper Entrapment Stage. And it's a lot. That's a lot of adjectives. But regardless, Shigaraki, man. Shigaraki, he's just a GOAT, bro. Like, imagine liking Dabi more than Shigaraki. I just simply could never. Imagine liking that whole child more than Shigaraki. This is Shigaraki's chapter, bro. I don't care what the chapter made you think, what made you believe this Shigaraki gang stand. I'm sorry. I'm kidding. Let's hop right into the chapter itself. So, open up with, I don't know. I'm not sure if this is just my own lack of artistic understanding of like body dynamism or like how you would draw characters in certain poses, but at first I was just going to critique Maruko, but looking at all the characters, I don't know, they're kind of drawn weird in this early pen. And I get, that's likely because they just came out of the portal, so I think I will give a pass on that. It's just that they all like how is Maruko going like I get how like Nejire has propulsions coming from behind her, but she's going horizontally. Bakugo, yeah, I think I'm just going to blame it on the portal, because you can really see the portal closing in the background. I guess they all dove in their own unique ways, which is why it seems so weirdly positioned. Like, I'm not saying the art is bad, it's just the shapes that Horikoshi decided to draw. Like, if you were to draw the lines of body motion into these images, they wouldn't necessarily make sense to me. However, regardless of that, I think it is cool to see the whole cast here in terms of, and not just the whole cast, but who the cast is in terms of taking down Shigaraki. We have multiple essentially powerhouses with one speed type character in terms of Bakugo, Miruko, Nejire, and Sun Eater. And then Edgeshot is obviously the dude that's going to come in with the blitzes. So it's a pretty solid team, and I definitely can see how this team would have supported Midoriya, but isn't the substitute for Midoriya, because none of them are as strong as him. So that's why Bakugo's just the inferior rival. You want a better rival, go to Black Clover. You got Asta and Yuno. Great dynamic. No, I'm sorry. I need to make a video on that. Who has the better rivalry, Bakugo and Midoriya or Asta and Yuno? Well, that's going to be a video. But regardless, the thing is, we're following up right after last chapter, and we get to see that Best Jeanist is now in shock that Midoriya isn't here. Like, what happened to him? Where did he go? And of course, Baku was like, I honestly have absolutely no clue. He got dragged somewhere. And the thing, and once again, there were some people fighting for Midoriya's life, but Midoriya, bro, not even here. Let's leave Midoriya be. Let's act like Midoriya is just a regular base human that can be dragged by a 16-year-old, even though we've seen quite the contrary on multiple occasions. I still don't know how Toga managed to aimbot that whatever she used on him so well. Like, that is insane that she not only managed to aimbot through a portal after she was just in a cage, but she locked on sight and Midoriya couldn't fight back at all and just got yanked. Like, it's crazy. Why was the portal even open that long? So many questions about that. But obviously, it's just so we can delay the inevitable. And to be fair, I still think, especially after what this chapter shows us, bringing Midoriya straight to Shigaraki without either of them being even remotely tired is a big mistake. And as this chapter goes to show, you don't want to try this, man. But of course, we get to see that everyone's now unconfident in their possibilities of even fighting Shigaraki, because obviously Shigaraki is still a monster, and the only one who has any confidence in their abilities and their willingness to fight is Miruko, because she's like, whatever, we gotta beat him up. All right, the plan doesn't change. We lost one guy who's gonna punch him in the face. We'll punch him in the face now too. Do you see my big metal hand? We're obviously just gonna punch the man in the face. And I respect the confidence, but golly gee willikers is unfounded. Like, y'all know who you're dealing with, right? Like, Maruko, I don't think you were there because you got like no diffed. Well, not no diffed. You got high diffed by a couple of Nomus, and then you broke your foot. That's why you're missing limbs. So maybe you weren't there, but Shigaraki, he just ain't your puncture bag. And that's when he was incomplete and quirkless. So now you have this full dude. And once again, right, like I gave why did I say Nakaba? I gave Horikoshi a little bit of like flack for the opening panel poses, but for some reason, the way Horikoshi draws Shigaraki in a whole ton of panels in this chapters, plural, I'm reading multiple chapters, in this chapter is so dynamic. Like it feels otherworldly is the word I'd use. Like the posing and the positioning that he puts, not like what. I'm struggling with names. Shigaraki in. It feels almost, I guess, maybe like divine. Like he just feels detached from the world. Like every single movement is a pose. It's dynamic. It's like every single phrase or form that we have of Shigaraki in this chapter feels like an art piece. It's like he's untethered by the earth, and which makes sense. It fits his character now, considering he is literally beyond humanity in multiple senses. He's a multi-quirked, multi-minded, indestructible, biochemically advanced monster. So it makes sense that when he's portrayed in this almost transcendent light, where he's a being beyond comprehension. I think that's really, really cool. And the fact that Horikoshi was able to capture that without words by just how he draws the character is insane. Once again, Horikoshi, as an artist, goated, hands down. In terms of non-visual storytelling, when that man wants to tell you something without having to actually tell you something, the man can do it. Because, as he says, this is the battle with the greatest villain in history. They gotta beat him up. And of course, Shigaraki / All for One. That's the weird thing, right? Still not the biggest fan of the Shigaraki All for One merger. Really am not. But it's interesting to see the byproducts of what All for One's influence has on a mind like Shigaraki. Like, Shigaraki would not have taken into account the horizon is so low, we're floating the sky. He wouldn't have taken in, like, who's with him, who's not with him. He's so attentive now. Like, the clarity that All for One provides Shigaraki's mind is that he's not so much focused on destruction, he's focused on optimized destruction. He's focused on information, data, and I think that's really, really cool. It's an addition that Shigaraki could have gotten with time automatically. Like Horikoshi didn't have to shove a whole other person in there. However, if this is one of the results, I'll admit, I'll take that. Even though I think the overall narrative is weakened for the fact that All for One had to take over Shigaraki for some reason. Like, you couldn't have just made it Shigaraki versus Midori. Like, it's not like Midori is getting hijacked by any of the people in One for All. In fact, he's reverse hijacking them. So I feel like it's... I'm going to make a whole video talking about that. I still need to, especially before the series ends. I just want to talk about it in depth. But of course, Shigaraki tells him, don't interrupt me this time. And of course, that's referring to what I mentioned, I believe, last chapter or the chapter before that, where Shigaraki instinctively, once seeing all the people there, went to touch the ground. Like, that was his main objective, touch the ground, end the entire war. And really, if he had done that right there and then, who knows, he may have ended the entire war. But of course, we get to see Shigaraki as he touches down, and Decay acts. Once again, it's the posing. Oh, I love it. The way you see all the detail on his arm, the way he breaks the panel with his Decay, and like the aura of radius focuses on the hand itself, because that's the source of destruction. Ooh, it's beautiful. However, we get to see, and hey, I guess I was talking too much smack. Apparently, this anti-decay function works really well. And honestly, I'm kind of mixed on this, because the moment Shigaraki touches the ground, right, he burns through the first layer on the ground, which I'm assuming is concrete, considering what we see later on in the chapter. He burns through that first layer, but then he gets launched up into the air by these jet-propelled parts of the ground, and he gets sent up all the way and slams into the electrical barrier and gets electrocuted. Now, I feels like Shigaraki, and this is in the same case with Midori, like the reason I'm going to play both sides, because I obviously need to. Midori getting dragged by Toga and not having the reaction speed or the raw strength to not get dragged somewhere else when he's using One for All doesn't make sense. The fact that Shigaraki couldn't dodge some rocket-propelled earth chunks that are carrying who knows how much weight, and he forced himself to get slammed to an electric barrier and he couldn't fight back, that doesn't make sense. Like, we've got to realize what was established all the way back in the war arc, and was reiterated this chapter, is that Shigaraki, in terms of speed, is on par with All Might. All Might was not... You couldn't really fight All Might with machines. Like, that was the whole narrative. He was something different. For a good reason, because of his quirk. But still, he was a different breed. So you're telling me this Shigaraki, of this insane caliber, who has access to all his other quirks, by the way. This is before he later on in the chapter gets shut down. You're telling me he couldn't react to that? He couldn't fight it back down? Like, literally, what I would expect to happen in that scenario when he's getting launched up into the air is he would feel the panel start to move, and either A, he would throw himself off of it because of the all for one in him telling him to dodge, and or B, the Shigaraki in him would be like, no, and just force it back down, because he should have the raw physical strength to do that. Like, I don't know what they got in these rockets, but if they're this powerful, I don't know, maybe just shoot Shigaraki with them. But now on top of that, Decay, we got to remember, before Shigaraki even got stronger, like before he achieved his true perfect state, even before he achieved his imperfect state in the War arc, back in the Redestro arc, My Villain Academia, however long ago that was, the moment Shigaraki touched something, everything was gone. Like, there was no hesitant delay. Like, there was no way an activation system would have come in time and stopped that. And even if it did, the decay would have rippled through it. Like, by the time the rocket started to fire off, decay would have worked so quickly that it would have torn through the entire area before Shigaraki could get launched anywhere. It would have destroyed the rocket, because Shigaraki does not need to contact you to start decay. Decay simply needs to touch something you're connected to, and then it gets destroyed. So these rockets are on some demon timing. It's kind of insane to me, especially considering this is a Shigaraki not 1 but 2 amps later. This is completed Shigaraki with a decay that should be even stronger. So the fact that he manages to not decay that immediately, kind of insane. But however, before y'all get on me, I get it. We could not have full power Shigaraki. That's the unfortunate thing in the narrative. You can see Horikoshi went too far with his characters in terms of how insanely powerful they should be, so he's scaling back. That's why he had Shigaraki nerfed in the first place, and then he's nerfing him again here, because it wouldn't make sense on a narrative level to have Shigaraki be so powerful. And that's why you needed at least some of this to work. But even still, I'm gonna whine about it, because I don't know, it feels strange to me with all that's been established in the narrative so far. I feel like that shouldn't happen. But of course, we get to see that Shigaraki, once he gets electrocuted, he's like, oh, well, my body's seizing up, but I can still just go crazy, go stupid. But then he managed to get nabbed by Best Jeanist, who does immediately wrap him up real darn good and just slam him into the ground. And we see that Best Jeanist is like, hey, no matter how superhuman you are, my boy, that electricity, the little sparky sparks, crazy, bro. You could never handle this. You could never be that dude. You were never like me. I'm simply that dude personified. You would never be able to react like that, because you're simply not that guy, pal. You're not that guy. And I mean, I guess, but what if, like, this is the unfortunate thing about the vagueness of All For One, how many quirks he stockpiled, what these quirks can do, and all that. You're telling me, in all of his existence, he never ran into one dude with an electric immunity quirk? Like, the man can dampen the effects of physical attacks. There have been quirks for that, but you didn't run into a single electricity producing quirk, or any quirk that would have provided an immunity or resistance to that? Really? I mean, I guess it's shown that he hasn't, but it just feels weird. But of course, we see that, like I mentioned from before, the decay did activate on the block, but it activated way too slow for that. After all this, now only the block's been fully decayed. And the thing is, right, that block from the ground sprung real high and disintegrated. But shouldn't it fall back down? And shouldn't the decay continue to propagate? Like, unless, I'm not exactly sure, but I'm pretty sure in the war, unless everything is like flattened to the ground, decay will just keep spreading. It's like an endless effect. It'll just keep going. So it doesn't show that the decay like vaporized the blocks. So the blocks, due to gravity, should still be falling and should fall right down to the ground and start decaying more things, right? Unless I'm tripping. If I'm tripping, then I'm tripping. But I feel like the decay was stronger than this. But of course, we have to nerf him. And we see that Shigaraki is pushing the point like, okay, 1, you can't hold me, as he very clearly displays when he just casually flips out of Best Jeanist restraints. And 2, once he touches the ground again, it's a GG. But like, it should have been a GG round start, Shigaraki, because he mainly says you'll run out of stuff to make and you won't be able to push that up for me, or like you won't be able to keep up with my rate of decay, which is true. I feel like it should have happened already, but still, it's true. But his main idea is, oh, you're gonna run out of ground. So Shigaraki, were you really just playing to decay? Like, was he playing to run around? Like, legitimately, it would have been hilarious if Shigaraki landed on the ground tapped his fingers to the ground and just ran in a straight circle because no one will be able to catch him. He's as fast as All Might. Who here on the squad that we have right here, right now, is anywhere near All Might's level of speed? If he ran around and was just tapping the ground, dragging all 5 fingers, he would be able to solo the entire thing. But of course, you get to see, as Best Genius points out, actually, well, that's a very nice concern. I'm glad you care about us, Shigaraki. We're not really concerned about that, because as you can see, we have plenty of material to replace whatever's lost. You are in the wrong for once, Shigaraki. Has your short brain. I do love the roast here, because Best Genius is comboing off the electricity bar. He's like, hey, yo. Has your brain short-circuited already? You simple fool. You individual. You Neanderthal. How dare you even consider the fact that we wouldn't prepare for the possibility of you having multiple decay opportunities? Come on now. This place was specifically created in order to defeat you. And, I mean, I get it. I really do. But, come on, bro. Like, I don't, and it does. Let me not complain, because I know what happens at the end of the chapter. But of course, and I love it, because that's the thing, right? I feel like we're on such mixed ground, because what Best Genius refers to this place as is a coffin in the skies. And coffin, you know, coffin usually holds dead people. So, like, if you're going to make such a tasty proposition, the idea of a coffin in the skies, why is not everyone on the same page? Why are we not trying to kill this man? Why are we not trying to execute? Like, if we're going in, we're going in. But of course, and I'll get into why that's contradicted a bit later. But we see that the plates that were destroyed, they immediately get replaced by a combination of Power Loader, Cementos, Mei, and Creati, or Momo. And I do believe that's a pretty good combo. I definitely see what they're doing here, because like, my main question at the time, back when we were talking about how all of 1A was going to help, is like, hate to say it, but not all of y'all are combat viable. Like, what's a Koda gonna do? What's a Rikido gonna do? But for a character like Momo, who isn't necessarily combat viable, and I guess doesn't want to just resort to drugging Shigaraki, like, actually, now that I think about it, what would have happened if, like, Momo or Monoma just teleported Shigaraki into a pool full of that stuff that Momo drugs people with? Would that have won the fight immediately? I know that'd be mad anticlimactic, but like, Momo can make a whole ton of stuff. As we're seeing, with Lunch Rush's help, she's just constantly producing materials without losing any like body mass or anything. So is it entirely possible that if she could just produce like a whole pool, like gallons upon gallons of that illegal substance, would they have been able to one-shot Shigaraki? Like, or maybe like produce it as a mist or something like that Shigaraki wouldn't know about and be forced to breathe in and then knock out? I don't know. He probably has a high metabolic rate though, so it may not have held him down for as long. Then again, Gigantomachia had a really high metabolic rate. Who do you think it would take longer to affect? Do you think it would for probably that same dosage? Because who knows? That's maybe how much Shigaraki would inhale. Like, all it took for Gigantomachia to fall after a while was like a dose, like a water bottle or a large water bottle sized dose of that illegal drug to knock him out. So how much do you think it would have taken to knock Shigaraki out? Do you think it's easier for him to get knocked out because he has a smaller body? Or do you think because he has a smaller body, he has a higher metabolic rate? I know I went on a complete tangent, but just seeing Momo here being used as someone to create floor tiles, I'm like, well, why not just create a whole bunch of the good illegal and make a whole bunch of weird, like, just drown him essentially in that stuff and see what happens then. But I guess obviously if it fails, and you want to have a backup plan. But you see that, and that's the crazy thing. This isn't just, and who knows, no one really knew All Might's strength in his prime except for All Might. But considering Best Genius was working with All Might, Best Genius is claiming that extremely lethal long range attacks and a speed on par with All Might in his prime. You're telling me all these people are prime All Might level? These rockets are prime All Might level? Like, I get it. Power creep happens in the narrative. But, like, it is insane that these things are keeping up with this level that Shigaraki's at. It kind of, I mean, it almost reverse devalues all the setup that All Might had and that the standard that he was if all these people are on his level. But, you know, or all these, not even just people, things. But let me not complain about that. Let me just say, it's fine. Power creep happens. It's shown in narrative. Everyone has to get power crept eventually. So it makes sense that the standard for the peak of power in the verse would essentially just be irrelevant towards the very end. And of course, we get to see that this whole operation is essentially possible because of a combination of two geniuses, Mei Hatsume and Nezu. By essentially working together, they managed to design an evacuation system which came from the principal, and then Mei was able to bring it to life with the whole idea of making it airborne in order to send Shigaraki flying and limit his decay usage. Because obviously a Shigaraki on the ground is a lot more dangerous than a Shigaraki not on the ground. Or no. Yeah, that is right. I don't know why I paused there. But apparently, and I do admit, this is a fantastic use. That's why I'm complaining, but once I give you the score of this chapter, you're going to be like, wait, how are you complaining so much but gave it such a high score? But the thing is, the like button is free. But also the thing is, they had to overcome the lack of materials, so they used Momo. They had to overcome the lack of sleep and lack of workers, so they used ectoplasm. And they used cement sauce. I like how they used, Horikoshi essentially used the characters that he had built them in the narrative that he knew could not be useful on a combat front and gave them something to do instead that still makes them useful to the overall plot. That is what I like. I admit, I'm a sucker for when an author takes their characters that have specialties and uses those specialties, especially in a scenario like this. That is very, very cool. Do I think it makes sense on some level with how Shigaraki isn't reacting with some of these things? No, but that's just because Horikoshi is contradicting the narrative he set up so far. But that's a consequence of having a narrative that's so long running and having it so that you can't let your big bad be literally unstoppable. Like, you have to nerf them in the sense, whether that be with actual on-screen nerfs that we don't get specified, such as the Stars and Stripes nerf, and or just the idea of power creeping one of the top tiers in the verse, literally one of the god tiers in the verse. So it makes sense. But of course, the next thing that they do, once again, Horikoshi, let me just chef's kiss this, is he uses someone like Kaminari, uses that manga dude from Class 1B, uses some second years, I guess, as the fuel for this entire operation, considering it takes so much energy. And instead of using batteries and stuff like that, since they don't have the resources, they use these people who have this level of power. However, I guess they must be co-feeding off of each other too, right? Because Kaminari doesn't have infinite energy. Like, he goes dumb the more and more energy he exposes. So maybe he's like plugged into the kanji that's next to him, and that's how like he's keeping up with this electrical burst. Because notably, he has the largest plume of electrical energy coming off of him, so he's providing a good chunk of the power. But with that level of output for how long this is going to take, like, it's impressive. But of course, we get to see that after all that, these guys, this electrical team is the key to the plan. Because if they fail, all of this fails, because they don't have the power, and then they'll just fall out of the sky, and Shigaraki will be like, well, it was real, it wasn't fun, but now every last one of you is done. And then he just slaughters them all. So it is a very important thing that they stay airborne. And of course, the thing is that this is weird, right? Because Shigaraki is, well, Manga-kun says this, so who knows? Maybe Manga-kun isn't on the right page. But Manga-kun is still trying to put Shigaraki behind bars. What bars are going to hold Shigaraki, bro? Like, actually, unless you get Eri herself to stroll up and then revert that man out of existence or revert him back to a child state. Like, how are you going to put this man behind bars? I liked what Best Jeanist said. Best Jeanist said, this is your sky coffin, bro. We are taking, this is your angel island, bro. Like, we are the Master Emerald in this. Well, you are not leaving here alive. Meanwhile, I mean, it may just be like an ideology thing. Maybe the heroes are on the murder team. Like, they may be like, yeah, we gotta get rid of this man right here, right now, or else they won't know that the like button is free. Meanwhile, the kids are like, yo, I hate to say it, but I can't commit myself to the murder of a murderer. I just can't. I gotta follow the Batman philosophy. And regardless, I do think it's just a little bit weird. Like, they should at least be all on the same page that Shigaraki, he's got to go. He's got to die. I know Midoriya isn't, but we'll talk about Midoriya whenever we get back to him. But of course, we get to see is that the main reason that everyone here is fighting for their lives, they're risking it all, is not for honor, not for glory, not for anything about that. It's just the fact that they want to protect the future, and they got to put an end to the destruction of the future that stands before them in the form of this transcendent being. And of course, we get to see that Shigaraki's like, well, all right, I respect your hustle. It's really, really good. It's really, really cool, guys. Great work. Yeah, let Impact blast and blow up this entire area. But to be fair, Shigaraki, you're kind of, I mean, he doesn't know where the battery is. Like, he probably wouldn't know to aim to the top. But, like, he just goes for a random wall to blow up. And to be fair, that would work. But apparently, like, I mean, I'm happy though, right? Because I kept mentioning how Monoma could be used as the Eraserhead substitute. Like, if Eraserhead can't use his quirk accurately for that long, and, well, no, can't use his quirk at all anymore because of the loss of his eye, you can just use Monoma as a substitute and nerf either Shigaraki or All for One, and have it so that they essentially can't do anything and they're just relying on their physicals. But now that he's just forced to rely on his physicals, like, we gotta remember, Shigaraki, while incomplete, brawled with Endeavor. Like, this is, like straight through hands with him. Oh wait, no, maybe that was pre Aizawa. But essentially, a base, no quirk, incomplete Shigaraki was brawling with the entire hero group. Like, he was eating 100% smashes from Midoriya back to back to back. He was sending out throws and hits and damn it, like things that were killing people or could have killed people left and right. The speed of All Might, the strength of All Might, the power behind it, like. You're telling me, you're really feasibly telling me that any of y'all still pose a threat to this man even when quirkless? Like, it's cool to see Monoma laughing at him and Aizawa holding Monoma's hand and the Manual using his water to keep Monoma's eyes open to avoid the dry eye. Like, it's cool. And I love Monoma's drip at him. Like, haha, not the biggest fan of Erasure, are you, Mr. Final Boss? Like, it's a cool line. It's a bar. You know, like, we accept bars here at That Guy with the Pencil, right? We greatly respect bars. But the thing is, like, y'all, once again, this is just like an in-narrative thing. Me looking on the outside, looking in, having witnessed the entire narrative up to this point, I feel like y'all are downplaying Shigaraki. Even if the twist at the end of this chapter didn't happen. Like, the whole idea that, okay, if we shut down his quirks and we try to fist fight him, it can go fine. But, like, even if Midoriya was here, do you think 45% smashes were going to do anything to Shigaraki? A complete Shigaraki? Did you really think it was going to do anything? That man was eating everything for breakfast, lunch, and dinner. Unless Midoriya was throwing around some 300% slamma-jammas. Like, there was nothing that I could see Midoriya really doing to this Shigaraki, especially now that he's complete. Like, this man is a demon. But, of course, we get to see that, as I was mentioning, the fact that he cannot help directly because he can't use Erasure fully, but he can act as a conduit to overcome the time limitation of his quirk. And I thought it had decreased to 10 minutes. Maybe that was a mistranslation thing on the wiki, or like I've mistranscribed, but I thought the limit was improved to 10 minutes, not just 5 minutes, but I guess maybe not. Or maybe Aizawa just doesn't know about Monoma's training, so that's why he says we can overcome the 5-minute limit by having Aizawa just squatting next to him. But, like, Aizawa, you couldn't get a chair, bro? Like, I know you got hurt. It's not worth it. But, of course, we get the internal monologue from Aizawa that's like, okay, all this is great. This is all set up so that Midoriya could have the upper hand in this battle. But without Midoriya here, this is essentially pointless. And, yeah, to a point, they're very correct, because none of them can do anything. Heck, I'm still in the denial camp until we get, like, the final quirk reveal or like, unless Midoriya's literally been stocking up, like, 100% fake smashes and stuff like that. I still don't see how he's going to defeat the Shigaraki, which is why I believe you want to take out All for One first. But, that's just me. But we see that not only is Shigaraki nowhere to be found, but I don't know what this is. Like, Horikoshi, as an artist, he's always had an obsession with hands. If you ever noticed it, like, a lot of what Horikoshi will draw is hands. Like, he drew the one hand of Hawks when he had the watches on. He always draws Dobby's hands, like, very front and forward to the camera. Like, he just loves it, and I don't blame him. Because as an artist, one of my main goals in life is to be able to draw hands, like, at all. Do you know how much my art would level up if I could draw hands consistently without a reference? Ooh, I'd be insane in the membrane. But I think Horikoshi has realized he's just so good at drawing hands that he's just gonna do it for anything and everything. Like, the man literally has Shigaraki unfold with, like, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, 15, 16, 17, 18, 19, 20, 21, 22, 23, 24, 25, 26. 26 different hands all at once. He just poops them all out on page, on panel. Because he can. Even though he's quirkless? Is this a quirk? Is this just... Can humans do this? Can we grow hands? Hold on, let me try. Nope, they can't grow hands yet. So I don't know how this is a base human thing. Maybe it's because, like, as I was struggling with his quirk, maybe Monoma's just not as good as it. Or maybe he's not keeping track of Shigaraki properly. But this seems like a quirk-based function that Shigaraki is using while supposedly quirkless. And, of course, Maruko's like, hey... what the heck is going on here? Give me the information on that attack. But Bakugo is like, hey, no offense, but we have absolutely no idea. And by we, I mean me, help me. And of course, Aizawa points out the very real fact that this Shigaraki is not the same dude. He's not that same guy that you encountered all those days ago back in Jaku. This guy is insane. He is Kenjaku, because this man sends out that whole swarm of hands and gets his dirty fingers all over my Maruko. Whoa. He gets his dirty fingers all over Maruko. And I love how this is Shigaraki speaking. I used to think you were so cool. What a letdown, Eraserhead. And yeah, that's it. So I'm assuming somehow Shigaraki has overcome the limitations of Erasure, or he's altered the function of how his quirk activates, or he's like discovered something about the quirk factor that changes it enough that Aizawa can't shut it down, or at least Erasure can't shut it down, because Monaba doesn't look like he's blinking, and who knows, maybe there's some external factor here, but yeah, this definitely seems to be in Shigaraki's favor. So Shigaraki, get the curb stomping, bro. Everyone should be done. Like, I think those are more than 5 fingers of contact. Maruko, I love you, baby girl, but you gotta get disintegrated, bro. Like, I feel bad, but you gotta go. Someone's gotta go. Someone's gotta die. And if it's gonna be you, big rips, fly high, girl. The like button is free. Nah, but overall, I still am gonna have to give this chapter a solid 8 out of 10 or 9 out of 10. And that's mainly because even though it feels like for a majority of the chapter, Shigaraki was for some reason heavily nerfed, all the stuff that Horikoshi did in terms of developing the usage of these characters who were not combat based, the development of this entire arena, the thought behind it, everything, and obviously the artwork in this chapter, all of it's just way too good. Oh my. The only thing I have to take a point off, or 2 points off for, is that lack of consistency. Like, you can't tell me in the same chapter that he has the speed of Prime All Might and then have him get blitzed by rockets. You can't tell me he's the speed of Prime All Might and have him not instantly slaughter everyone here. Like, you can't tell me he's even stronger than he was before and he's not absolutely annihilating every individual here with no remorse, because that's what Shigaraki and All For One would do. Like, since Midoriya isn't here, there is no incentive for Shigaraki to be holding back. So, I don't know. And I think we are going to get it next chapter. I think we are going to get I don't want to spoil it, so I won't talk about what Black Clover's been doing recently. But for my people who read Black Clover and My Hero Academia, a certain something happened. And I think we are going to get like a continuous curb stomp kind of momentum that we got in Black Clover right here. I do believe we're going to see some people get basketball thrown around, curb stomped, and Shigaraki's going to break free. Hopefully, it doesn't take too long, because it really shouldn't. But hey, it'd be like that when it be like that sometimes. Tamaki, eat some part of Shigaraki and become him. Do that if you need to. But yeah, honestly, I still really, really like this chapter. Overall, super solid. 8, yeah, I'll probably give it a 9 out of 10. The inconsistency, as much as I don't like it, every other part of the chapter backpacks so hard that I really appreciate it. However, those are my thoughts on the chapter. Please tell me your thoughts on the chapter in the comment section down below. Thank you so much for watching. Remember to like, share, comment, and subscribe. I hope you hit that little notification bell so you don't miss out on any videos that come to the channel. Also, do have a Patreon down below where you can support me for as low as $1 a month. Any support would be appreciated. Now, once again, thank you guys so much for watching, and I hope you guys have a wonderful day. This is that guy with the pencil, writing off.